Disclaimer: the comments made in this video are intended solely for entertainment purposes and are not intended to harm or offend anyone.
Woke culture hasn't just taken over the media, it's spread into schools and universities, pushing their agenda everywhere. And some brainwashed college students think they can win any argument. But what happens when they get instantly owned, showing they don't really know what they're talking about? These are times when woke college students got instantly owned. Starting with the time a student tried to challenge Charlie Kirk, only to be completely shut down by him just seconds later.
You dropped out of college, and your highest...
Community college.
Sorry, your Harper College experience, I apologize.
Barely was smart enough to make it through community college.
Okay, so...
Barely
and
made it through high school,
your
too.
highest degree level is an honorary doctorate degree from Liberty University.
No, that's true. I do have an honorary PhD.
Yeah, so essentially, what are your qualifications for arguing that college is a scam, or really having any economical knowledge at all, when likely the vast majority of the students here know more than you about economics as a whole?
Okay, so... no, hold on. It's okay, guys. It's okay. Who's Milton Friedman?
Who's Milton Friedman? I have no idea, and it's not important to this conversation.
Who is Ludwig von Mises?
These are all probably economists, and they're the same
Yeah,
thing.
who is John Maynard Keynes?
Okay, obviously I know who Keynes is.
Oh, obviously, yeah.
He's the most famous economist of all
Well,
time.
You don't know Milton Friedman?
I mean, that's an economist.
Okay, how about Murray Rothbard?
That's another economist.
F.A. Hayek?
I don't know who that is.
Well, then you just came here and insulted my intelligence. You're right, I barely made it through community college because I was too busy, starting a national youth movement with hundreds of thousands of members.
Hey, hold on, though. Hold on.
Employing hundreds of people, raising hundreds of millions of dollars,
yes,
having a top 10 most popular podcast,
sure,
and reaching tens of millions of people online every day.
The student showed up with the goal of calling Charlie stupid for not going to college, but Charlie was more than ready for the challenge, and the student had no idea what was coming. Watch as Charlie proves exactly who the smarter one is.
Sure,
hold on.
But you're also
What are my
calling all of your
qualifications?
constituents idiots
No,
by
I've
saying
never
they
said that,
participate in a
actually.
scam. Their
Hold on a
shirt's
second.
right there.
I'm
College
calling
is a
the
scam.
institution a scam.
So then
I never
why-
insulted
okay,
the
so then-
intelligence. I just had 10 people come up and we had warm conversations. So you asked, what are my qualifications? I'm a job creator, entrepreneur, autodidact. Do you know what that word means? Yeah, self-taught. You should probably learn that word if you're going to come up and insult other people's intelligence.
Hey.
So autodidacticism is what Leonardo da Vinci was. You don't have to go to college to be wise. You don't have to go to college to be intelligent. I read 100 books a year. I visit over 150 colleges.
I'm not saying you're unintelligent. I'm just saying you lack qualifications.
Well, are you a New York Times bestseller?
Of course not. I'm in college.
Got it. So I'm just trying. What are my qualifications? I have published books, read lots of books, dialogued with a lot of people, and instead of asking what my qualifications are...
He picked the wrong guy to call stupid for not going to college, and he clearly forgot that two men who never went to college invented the airplane. But Charlie doesn't stop there. He goes on to prove that college probably didn't do the student any favors.
Oh, and what book did Marx write?
Yes, he wrote Capital, and he also wrote the
Communist Manifesto. Who was his co-author?
Who was co-author?
Yeah, Engels. Good. I'm glad college is really paying off for you.
Hey.
But it's okay. It's fine. He comes up here and insults my intelligence. What are your qualifications? Doesn't even know the co-author of the Communist Manifesto or Das Kapital. But no, let me just...
Does my lack of knowledge on that mean that I have no knowledge? Again, is that the same
thing? You came up here
thing?
and insulted me. And you came up here guns a-blazing, man.
And this wasn't the only student to come for Charlie over his claim that college is a scam. In fact, the next student thought he had the perfect argument to shut him down. But what happened next was anything but that.
Yeah, but
college is
it'd
an
be wrong to say
institution.
college is a scam if 25% of people become great people. Lawyers, doctors, engineers.
That's not what college
help the
currently
world.
is, though. Again, I'm happy to have you read the book. College is a scam. I wrote it. I can have a more wordy thing, which is the vast majority of people that go to college are receiving a scam for the money that they're borrowing. Vast majority. Of course, there's exceptions. You can make whatever you want with your life. I mean, you could. But I mean, when you enter into an enterprise, you need to know that you are.
Most people that go into college
let me
make more
prove this
money
to
at
you.
the end.
How many of you guys have to take classes that are a waste of time that you wish you wouldn't have to take? Every single hand. You're being scammed against your will to take classes that make you go further into debt. Why can't you say I don't want to take this class? Why as a customer you can't say?
Can you do a differential equation?
You what?
Can you do a differential equation?
Can I do
Can you explain to me the anatomy of a human?
Like somewhat off the top of my head.
You know what psychology is.
Yes, I do know what psychology.
Okay,
I've read
can you
Freud and I've
explain
read Jung.
to me?
you want me to explain psychology?
Well, you can't explain
Is-
it
is-
to the depths of a bachelor's degree or a PhD.
Well, hold
or
on a second.
master's.
Time out. I've sat here with no notes, no phone, and debated people with
Yeah, because
PhDs,
you study
masters.
this because it's your job.
Hold on. I didn't go to college, man. That's the point. Is you can do whatever you want without a college degree.
And just when you thought students couldn't get any more clueless, one decided to go way beyond their expertise, debating whether illegal immigrants should be allowed in the US.
Our government is now providing taxpayer-funded cell phones, hotel rooms, benefits, airplane rides, cash for foreigners, but not for Americans. If you guys as an American citizen want a free cell phone, they'll laugh at you. As a foreigner for Venezuelan, you get one on the southern border. You get a flight to any city that you want. You get a luxury hotel in New York City. You get taxpayer-funded healthcare. That is the inversion. That is elevating somebody from a distant land over our own people. When our own kids can't afford homes, when our own people are seeing an increase in crime, homelessness, and we have over 50,000 homeless vets in this country. It's a breakdown of the social contract.
Wait, so the government should support veterans, support
Yes.
citizens more? We should do, so we should spend more on our people
No,
with like
no, no.
better health care,
Well,
better
hold on,
social
hold on a second.
programs. That's
We-
literally what you just said.
We should spend it on veterans and not on foreigners.
Sure, and American
Yes.
citizens with like cheaper health care. That's what you just said.
Well, hold on. You're
Free
trying to...
phones, airplane rides, public transit.
I
That
don't
sounds
support-
great for Americans.
No, it sounds terrible, actually.
For Americans?
Yes, government should not be giving free phones to anybody, okay?
You said
Because-
that the citizens should come first in those programs.
Yes,
first.
you know how they should come first? By not
By
having to
nothing.
compete against a foreigner for your job.
The kid clearly has no idea what's actually happening in the country, but Charlie does, and he's as sure as ever in his stance.
So colleges should better prepare students and better utilize government resources.
Well, college is a
So
scam, but yes, we did that earlier.
For
But-
computer science, they shouldn't go to college.
Well, actually, you don't need to go to college for computer science.
You don't need to go to college
No,
for computer
you-
science?
You could do a coding
For-
class in a couple months.
You could
and
do a
get
coding
job.
class.
Yes.
Yeah.
Alphabet is hiring right now.
You could get a
Alphabet?
job at Alphabet, Google,
Yes.
for taking a C++ class?
Correct. Yes.
Yes.
They're hiring coders after a 60-day coding class while having to go to Sea Boulder and learn about North African lesbian poetry, whatever they teach it. Right? So
It's always a disaster when someone with no background in politics tries to debate it. This student never stood a chance against someone like Charlie, who's been discussing these topics for years. At this point, proving these people wrong is just another day for Charlie.
they repealed Remain in Mexico.
Yeah.
They repealed Title 42.
42,
They're flying
separating
people. We have
families.
brought in 5% of the population of Haiti.
I don't see the issue with that, though. Like,
You don't see the issue with that?
allowing immigrants into our country, I mean, is that not the foundation
these
of
are
America?
these are illegal immigrants
yeah,
that
people
cut in
seeking
line.
refuge for the best country in the world. Isn't that the whole point of your like organization?
Well-
The U.S. is the best country in the world. Shouldn't we be obligated to like help people that are suffering?
Yes, America is the best country. Therefore, its citizens should come first, not foreigners. So we have
should
an
make the
obligation
path-
to our own
so the
people.
so the pathway to citizenship should become easier. Then.
No, we should deport them all back to
We
their
should deport
homeland.
them all back to their
all back to their
all
homeland.
the immigrants. Okay,
Well,
we shouldn't
all
make
the
it easier
illegal
for,
foreigners. Yes.
Okay,
And
sure.
Hold on. let's
Which is
see.
what Biden's been doing. They've been deporting people.
No,
like they
no,
let some
no.
in.
You are.
Okay.
No, it's completely wrong. First of all, just to give you an idea, in Springfield, Ohio, in one town, English as a second language speakers in one high school went from 250 to 1,500 kids in 2 years. These communities are being overrun. Go down to Aurora, Colorado, right down the street here. Entire apartment complexes are now being run by Venezuelan gangs. Not to mention, every day an American citizen is being killed. From Laken Riley to Rachel Morin to 11-year-olds that are being killed in DUI accidents. And so this is 100% on the Harris-Biden regime because they have a perspective similar to you. They think America is just an open season for the rest of the world to come in here. We have a different belief. We have a belief that our founding fathers had, which is if your government does not fulfill its obligation to its own people first, its government is not legitimate. And that's what's happening right now.
One of the main reasons people like Charlie Kirk is his ability to use logic and facts to dominate any argument. And you're about to see more of that in this next clip.
I just want you to answer this one question. Do you understand that as a white man, you do not have to apologize for being white? You just have to acknowledge the racism that happens around you. That is all.
What racism happens around me?
Let's say that a racist police officer shoots me, right, and kills me, right? For you to be a white man and you see that and don't say anything about it, I believe that my community would be upset about that. Now, all you have to do as a white man, you don't have to get on the internet or on Twitter and say, I'm sorry for being white, but you should at least acknowledge the racism that happens around you.
Okay, well, yeah, if an individual act of racism happens...
That is just taking accountability for what happens around you.
Hold on a second. First of all, I don't have to be accountability for a whole race, do I? Why do I have to be accountable for the white race?
For yourself.
Right, so if I'm racist, I'll take responsibility for that.
You probably are not racist, but...
Well, thank you. So then why do I have to comment on somebody else's racism?
But what you should do is take accountability for the racism around you. Not pretend that it doesn't happen around you.
This college student came in with a question, but it seems like he's just throwing out any idea that comes to his mind, even if it doesn't make any sense. Of course, Charlie isn't going to let that slide.
Like, again, the example that I gave you, that if I was shot by a police officer and you found out that person was racist, right? Now,
but why would you say take responsibility? How can I take responsibility for somebody else's actions?
What you should do is just take accountability and say, hey, yes, that was racist, instead of saying, no, that officer wasn't racist.
Well, hold on. You got to show me an instance and an example, but we're talking about such a micro problem that doesn't exist. You asked a hypothetical about if I'm going to take accountability for a racist police officer. But I mean, you understand, if I inverted it on you, would you take accountability for all the black police in America?
That was funny.
No, would you? Why don't you take accountability for all the black police in New York?
I wouldn't take accountability for it, but what I would say is, yes, there are a lot of black people in my community who do dumb things to other black people and to other white people. What I would not do is just pretend that it doesn't happen, so that, like I said, you as a white man has to do the same thing.
I acknowledge it happens. I also acknowledge it's rarer than lightning striking you when you're outside.
That's it.
But let me ask you, who is Tony Timpa?
That's all I wanted you to do. Thank you.
I acknowledge it's rare, and I'm not going to have to take responsibility for an entire race at all. It's wrong and it's terrible. I wish we could have continued the conversation. Hello, how are you?
We've definitely seen a lot of explaining in these clips from Charlie, but that's nothing compared to this next case, where Ben Shapiro explained basic biology to a college student who's clearly just pretending to know about that.
Hello, my name is Stephen Benelli, and I have just a question about, in general, we have your preconceptions about gender and all that. So I'm wondering, I find it really unsatisfying when you talk about gender and being like male or female, as just reducing it down to chromosomes. Do you feel as if there's like a really important like social aspect to like being a man, you know, that just doesn't simply get like transcribed by your chromosomes? Do you think that there's like something more to like humans than just like their
I think
sexes?
there are masculine qualities that attach to biological manhood that have been generalized. They don't necessarily apply to everyone, because you can have effeminate men who don't necessarily fit those categories. If you were to ask me what makes a good man or a useful man, I would give you a description that would include social categories like protecting your family, going out and earning, making sure that you build institutions in your society. Right?
So nothing that has to do with chromosomes.
But
nothing like chromosomes.
But in the end, if you have to ask for a definition of male or female, what you're talking about is the most irreducible form of this is the biology, which is why you can uncover a body from 30,000 years ago, and a scientist can tell you whether it is a male or a female without ever knowing how that person lived.
All right, thank you.
It's so quick and straight to the point. He doesn't waste any time, and in just a few sentences, he makes it clear that the student has no clue what he's talking about. And speaking of students who clearly have no idea what they're talking about, this next guy decided to talk about politics, and he probably wishes he hadn't, as Candace Owens was there to completely destroy his argument.
As I understand it, your position is that, you know, it's really expensive, we shouldn't be sending all this money, and it's also none of our business, right? I disagree with that because, one, I think it's morally right, but also, even from a national interest standpoint, right? That money, you know, the Ukrainians have definitely done a lot, but that money has helped them embarrass Russia on a national stage, right? Like, before, we believed that they were a big power, and now they've embarrassed themselves. And also, I think that Western solidarity is really important, right? I mean, like, especially with China eyeing Taiwan, we need to show them internationally that we're a solidified force. They can't just go and take it. We need to show that we can defend.
So we're spending trillions of dollars to embarrass Russia? That's like a little bit of embarrassment? Is that what we're trying to do? You think that we should be recycling millions of dollars and having millions of dollars disappear into thin air so that we can say, ooh, look, Vladimir Putin is embarrassed. And if by embarrassed you mean shaking hands with Xi Jinping, talking about how things are going to change and that the next 100 years are not going to look like the last 100 years, then you are not paying attention to what is going on. We have just pushed Vladimir Putin into the arms of China. right? One of our the greatest competitor that we possibly have is China. They're shaking hands. They're openly mocking the West. This has never happened before.
The student was talking about embarrassment, but honestly, I think he's the one who should be embarrassed. Not only did he have no clue what's going on with Ukraine, but he also made a bold, ridiculous statement that had no foundation. It's a perfect example of why college students should stick to what they know. Anything outside their expertise is just going to make them look foolish.
It's been non-stop wars that we haven't lost. You want to talk about embarrassment? Try leaving billions of dollars of technology in Afghanistan after spending decades fighting. That's embarrassment. That's embarrassment. What's embarrassing is China then flying immediately after we magically evacuate and meeting with the Taliban and immediately recognizing them as a government. We had daughters and our sons that died. What did we win? What about those weapons of mass destruction? Was this the 20th anniversary of Iraq? You want to talk about embarrassment? The things that we did in Iraq, the things that we've done all across the world, and for what? What do you have to show for it? Well, I guess we embarrassed a few people while we were sending Americans over to die. At least we were able to embarrass a few people in the process. That's not a good way to think. I'm going to tell you right now, that's not a good way to think. We should think about prioritizing all of the issues that we have in America. You want to talk about an invasion? Let's talk about the one that's happening at our border every single day. That's what we mean when we say America first, okay? We have plenty of issues to solve. Not a single red cent should be sent overseas until we fix what's happening here in the United States. Thank you for your question.
And it doesn't stop there. In another event, Candace Owens completely tore apart feminist as a feminist college student brought the topic to the conversation.
One of the brilliant things that the left does is they repackage words. It's clearly not feminism anymore. It's designed to actually rip apart women and men, to make women paranoid about men all the time. And every industry is controlled by a man, and to make being on your own, I want to do all by myself, aspirational, right? It's about all my single ladies who needs a man. So just because you're using the word feminism, it doesn't mean that it is feminism, right? And as best evidenced by the fact that they just keep using it when obviously we are on equal footing with men. And unless you can tell me what you're not allowed to do as a woman in society that men are allowed to do, right? That would be like a systemic problem that we would need to fix. And so also, I want to just remind you that I said earlier that you don't know true history. And when you wake up to the evils of feminism, they were fixated on breaking up the family. They liked death, right? They were creating a cult of death and destruction everywhere, all across the world. And just to be clear, the earliest iteration of a feminist that you're talking about that you deem to be heroic would be Margaret Sanger. That's a first wave feminist, and she hated me, so I feel nothing towards those feminists.
It's clear Candace is more than ready to tear apart a topic like feminism, and it's obvious she has no love for it. Feminism is one of the key ideas that woke culture pushes hard in universities and colleges. But people like Candace aren't going to sit back and let that slide.
And actually their bodies start coming online and their biology starts coming online, and they actually want to get married and have children, and they're realizing that they've stepped into a design that they were promised was going to be, as you hear, it's just going to be great, it's all going to be amazing, and it actually isn't that amazing. I don't know why. What are we even fighting anymore? Men holding doors? That's the new feminist cause? Like, no, equality means don't hold the door. No, I like when men pay for my meals. Love when my husband pays for my meals when we're recording. I like having the door held for me. In a perfect world, our society was so much better when women were involved every single day with their children before we handed them over to the Department of Education. And so I do not see feminism as having accomplished anything in our society. I actually think it was a nightmare that is being repackaged in our textbooks.
But nothing compares to this next case, where a Harvard student decided to challenge Kellyanne Conway, a well-known American political figure. And let's just say she probably wishes she hadn't, as Conway goes on to completely humiliate her in a way she'll probably never forget.
And I wanted to ask, since the last time you've been here was in 2016, I wanted to ask a question about your job as a White House spokesperson. In that role, you said things that were often pretty audacious, often cause people to question things that they have seen with their own eyes. And so I'm curious, in that role, I was always wondering whether it was a survival response in what seemed like was a very chaotic White House, or was it a strategy? So was it strategy or was it survival? You know, all the bantering with journalists, the alternative facts. Was it strategy or was it survival?
Do you know what alternative facts meant?
I'm aware.
Can you please explain it for us? So tell the person who uttered it on her third Sunday show the day looking into a blank camera and then immediately said what I meant.
Well, we can also do other examples. I mean,
No, you can answer the question though. You have to be fair. You're not going to go back 8 years and do that.
Well, I asked you a question about your role in the White House.
You gave me two choices. You gave me two choices and they're both inaccurate.
So, alternative facts, I'm assuming mean...
Oh, you're assuming. Go ahead.
This just brings up back to the point that many of these woke students don't fully understand what they're talking about or even know the terms they're throwing around. It ends up costing them by making them look foolish and getting absolutely owned in front of the crowd.
It's interesting that you decide to come here and know that you're going to be accepting questions from students, and yet...
Okay, so then I'll answer it. Thank you for your question. I gave you a good chance there, and it's a great chance for you because I don't need any more airtime. I get plenty of it. So I think your choices were survivor's response, that's rich, or since you know nothing about me, or banter, what was it? Something else silly.
I said strategy or survival.
Strategy.
Not survivor's response.
How about trying it? First of all, my job was counselor to the president. I said no to press secretary 42 minutes after President Trump was elected. He offered me that job. He said, you'd be great at that. I said, I would be terrible at that. I'm not even sure what they do. Some days I'm still not sure. I clearly am not sure after these 4 years. The border's secure. President Biden is behind the scenes. He's a trapeze artist and a triathlete. You just can't see it. So I hope you take these same concerns to the people who have lied to your face for 4 years in this administration all the way to this crushing defeat of a sitting vice president who could have been the first female president of color in our nation's history, but instead had to eat and own all the lies that had been told by this administration. Alternative facts was very simple. I meant to say alternative information, additional facts. It wasn't George Orwell. It wasn't a new set of facts. And you can read my whole book. There's a whole chapter about it where I explain it.
What's awesome about Kellyanne Conway is how she shuts down arguments in the calmest way possible. She doesn't need to get loud or dramatic. She just makes her point, and you can't argue with the facts.
And if you want to be judged by 2 words in your life, it wouldn't take me much time to find those 2 words. But I don't do that. I don't look at people that way. Seti, I think we're going to have to go a little bit more deeply than me giving some advice on how people find common ground. I'm very proud that I was able to tell people what was going on in the White House, what the Tax Cut and Jobs Act meant to them, that we had over 100 corporate incursions, that we had U.S. companies legally parked overseas, that since then we've had $2.5 trillion of wealth repatriated this country, that corporations did invest in their research and inventory in their workforce. I just had lunch yesterday with a woman in D.C. who told me her company raised the minimum wage to $20 the minute that passed. It goes on and on.
But while these woke students were getting shut down, woke reporters, on the other hand, are just as brainwashed from the whole woke agenda. Sometimes they get humbled in ways they'll probably never forget, and that's the cost of being too disrespectful when pushing your agenda. And the good news is, I made a video about it, on times when disrespectful woke reporters get instantly humbled. You can watch it by clicking on the screen. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you want to fight this woke madness.